After tossing and turning for what felt like hours, Nicole let out an exasperated sigh and gave in to her urges to check the album clock on her nightstand. 3 a.m. Careful not to wake the sleeping beauty next to her, Nicole crawled out of bed and headed to the living room to sort out her thoughts. This nightmare wasn't like the ones in the past. She knew it wasn't real, but it left her rattled nonetheless. Knowing herself and her newfound sleeping habits, she knew she would not be heading in the direction of her bed for the rest of the night. So she brewed herself a cup of tea, using her microwave, knowing the sound of the steaming kettle would be disruptive to her love's sleep. One of us deserves a good night's sleep, she thought to herself as she dejectedly nursed her mug to perfection. Once satisfied, Nicole snuck into her room to grab her phone and earbuds. Unfortunately, she was not as quiet as she had hoped, for when she tiptoed over to her side of the room, she failed to remember the new ottoman Waverly had added to her room nights prior. Fuck, Nicole murmured as she hit her pinky toe on the obstruction. Her initial reaction derived from pain, but the second out of guilt for waking her beloved. Much to Nicole's pleasure, Waverly hummed in her sleep, as she often did in the midst of a good REM cycle. God, she is so cute. Nicole couldn't help but wonder how she got so lucky. Not only was she head over heels in love, but she was also loved in the way she had never been before. For both women, unconditional love was something out of a fairy tale. Neither had experienced support in their family lives, and they sure as hell hadn't found it in previous relationships. For the two, their bond was more than just love, it was understanding. From the moment they had started dating, they had become each other's person. The one they laughed with, the one they cried with, the one they experienced life with. They were best friends. Spending time together was never a chore because they genuinely wanted to know everything about each other. Despite the fact that they had both gone through traumatic childhoods, full of shitty parents and even shittier friends, Nicole couldn't help but think about how she would endure it all over again if it meant getting to spend the rest of her life with Wynonna Earp. Lifting herself out of her love-struck trance, she exited the room, put her music on shuffle, and strutted to the cupboard to retrieve her cleaning supplies. If she wasn't going to sleep, she figured she might as well make use of her extra time. She started with the bathroom, scrubbing the sink, wiping the mirrors, brushing toilets, the whole 9 yards. She checked her phone. The time read 3:30. Nicole rolled her eyes and decided her next mission would be scrubbing the hardwood floors in typical Cinderella fashion. Once realizing there were literally no crevices left of her house that she could clean quietly, she retired to her sofa, rubbing her temples. She groaned, the routine of nightmare-induced insomnia becoming incredibly frustrating. Typically, Nicole was one to greet the morning sunrise from the comfort of her front porch, but since rediscovering her cult of bullshit trauma, she could barely force herself out of bed before 10 a.m. on the mornings after a nightmare. Luckily, she was off work the next couple of days, so she could take some much-needed time for herself. It wasn't until she forced herself out of her thoughts that she noticed a cloaked figure tiptoeing out of the darkness. Nicole ripped out her earbuds and searched for the nearest object she could use as a weapon. That was when she saw the sliver of a smile. Recognizing the fuzzy blanket she had bought as an addition to Waverly's stash, Nicole giggled. Waverly waddled over and took her seat on Nicole's lap, engulfing her in the large blanket. "Did you have another nightmare?" Waverly worriedly asked her girlfriend. Nicole responded with a shake of her head and a groan. Nicole, it's the third one this week. I'm so sorry, it must be awful. Don't apologize, baby. You can't do anything about it. I'm just sorry I was so noisy. Honestly, I didn't hear anything. You could have started playing the bagpipes and I wouldn't have budged. The light-hearted humor elicited a laugh from both women as they stared into each other's eyes. Waverly placed a chaste kiss on her girlfriend's forehead and proceeded to scratch the back of Nicole's head. Wait, if I didn't wake you with all the noise, then how are you awake? You were absolutely crashed when I last saw you. Well, there was a Nicole-shaped hole on the other side of the bed. I never sleep as well when you're not next to me. Nicole smiled and repositioned her little spoon so they were both lying comfortably on the couch. The two stayed there in silence until Nicole awoke to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and breakfast on the stove. It may not have been very long, but it was the best sleep Nicole had gotten all week.